Retro video game emulation is a taboo subject, and not a lot of people like to talk about it, let alone admit that they use emulators. Hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, kick off your shoes and relax your socks, because today we're going to talk about video game emulation. But today is a little bit of a different episode, right? Because normally you'd see the Chronik Spartan intro roll through. But the thing is, right, we've just had another baby. We've got 3 kids in the house now, and I am stuck for time. I cannot find time to record, edit, and upload videos. So I've been scratching my head and thinking of ideas on how I can keep the channel running, because I still want to keep to that regular weekly episode schedule. I still want to keep giving you guys content and interact with you guys out there. But the biggest part of doing this, the biggest time sink, is in editing the episodes. So I had a bit of an idea, right, and I've come up with this idea of an episode. Not technically about emulation itself, but this is what I'm calling kind of like a tagged one-shot episode. And I'll go into a bit more detail at the end, because I'm going to tag a few other content creators as well. But the point is to try and record an episode that is just beginning to end unedited. Anybody who's seen my episodes, who watches Chronik Spartan, knows that my episodes are edited. There's jump shots, there's jump cuts, there's B-roll in there, and I try and create a fluid episode where it doesn't have much of the cuts or the and ahhing, or maybe some of the stuttering that might be going on behind the scenes. I cut all that out so it's a fluid episode beginning to end, and I try and like make it more interesting and enjoyable to watch with all the jump cuts and the B-roll as well. But like I said, that takes the most time in editing. So today I'm going to try something a bit different. It's going to be easier for me because I won't have to edit it as much. I'm just going to record it and put it out there. I'll probably put a few of the things you might have seen, the retro refresh graphics pop up, and some of the title stuff that I usually put in there. But for the most part, it's just going to be beginning to end, uncut, uploaded. It's going to be easier for me because it's going to save me a hell of a lot of time. And I think it might be interesting for you guys to see an episode from a different kind of perspective. So anyway, let's get into it. Emulation, right? The first time I came across emulation was many years ago. I've mentioned before how GoldenEye on the N64 is a game I always really wanted to play when it came out. I heard the hype, loads of people talked about it, but I didn't have an N64, and none of my friends had an N64 either. So it was only after uni where I came across my first opportunity to play GoldenEye on the N64. However, that opportunity was through the fact that I found an N64 emulator online. I'd never really known about emulators up until then, and it really intrigued me. The fact that my PC could run an N64. And at the time I thought my PC was a lot more powerful than an N64, so it should deal with this no problem. So anyway, I downloaded the emulator and I downloaded the ROM. I'll be honest, I didn't own the game at the time. I own it now, so I've made up for that. The reason I say that is because a lot of people obviously are of the mindset that if you own the games, it's okay to download the ROMs. If you don't own the games, it's a bit shady. It's not clear cut like that. It doesn't mean it's legal or okay, but a lot of people follow that path, and I think that's a fair way to think about it. But anyway, I didn't own the game back then, but I do own it now. So anyway, yeah, I downloaded GoldenEye on the N64 and loaded it up on the emulator. And straight away, it was just choppy, the audio was terrible, I could not experience the game, I could barely experience walking a few steps. It was terrible, it was really bad, and I just thought, this is not going to be my first experience of GoldenEye on the N64, so I uninstalled the emulator and deleted the ROM. And I just thought, emulators are a nice idea, but they don't really work. So I left them. Fast forward a few years, I think we're talking probably about 2007, 2008 now. And I was thinking about Pokemon, and I was in the first wave of the Pokemon games. I enjoyed Gen 1 with Pokemon Red, Blue, and I played a little bit of Yellow as well. I didn't play Gold and Silver when they first came out, but I was quite on the pulse. I knew what was going on with them. After going to uni, I kind of forgot about Pokemon for quite a while. I wasn't even aware of games coming out. I didn't know about the anime, so I wasn't even sure if anybody really was bothered about it anymore. Anyway, I was at work, and I was just when you're daydreaming basically, and I started thinking about Pokemon and how awesome that game was, and I thought, I wonder if there's any new Pokemon games. So I went online and I checked, and yeah, of course there were. Games were coming out for the Game Boy Advance at the time, and I thought, I want to try these Pokemon games, but I didn't have a Game Boy Advance. I only had my original Game Boy. So once again, downloaded an emulator. This time a Game Boy Advance emulator, and I think it was Pokemon Ruby I downloaded. Again, I own it now, so it's okay. And it ran perfectly. It ran really, really well. But the problem was I was playing it on my laptop, and it didn't feel like the Pokemon games I remembered. It didn't give me that feeling, that nostalgia. Yeah, I was playing it through, but there was something missing. And I think it was because I was playing on a keyboard and a mouse. I didn't have the controller, and specifically it wasn't also like the small form factor of the Game Boy, and I just was not enjoying it. So although technically it was running really smoothly, again, I deleted it and didn't bother. And at that point I just thought, okay, emulators can work, but they are not the same. They do not give you the same nostalgia, the same feels, the same vibes that you have playing on your consoles. So I forgot about them. And then we're into like, I think it's like 2017 now. I'd had Raspberry Pis, I'd used them for TV. But I started hearing a lot of people saying how great they are for emulating classic consoles. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna give this one last shot. So I got a Raspberry Pi, got a USB controller this time, and it was amazing. It was brilliant. It was everything I remembered. I had access to all my favorite games I used to have as a kid, and I could plug them straight into HDMI on my TV, and I could play them with the USB controller. And it was everything I'd hoped emulation was gonna be back in those days when I tried them. So it brings me on to the point that, what do I think about emulation? Like I say, it's a difficult taboo area to discuss. There's a lot of grey areas and there's a lot of legal issues, clearly. And it's even more prevalent now that you have classic consoles like Sony, Nintendo, Sega, all offer classic consoles. So whereas maybe in the past people could have had the argument that, well, you know, Nintendo don't sell, you know, Super Mario anymore on the NES. The only way you can buy it is secondhand, and the only way you can buy an NES console is secondhand. So what's the point in buying it these days? Because Nintendo don't get the money anyway. It just goes to somebody who's selling their secondhand product. That, I can see where people were coming from with that. However, these days, when you've got classic consoles which offer those games, there's a way to buy and pay for those games if you don't already have them, and the money goes directly to Nintendo, Sega, Sony, whoever's offering their retro games via their form of emulation or in like a collections disc. The money goes to them. So I guess it's kind of gotten a little bit grayer recently. And yes, I do understand and I see those areas, and I am somebody that whenever I do use emulators, I always stick to games that I have, because I have all these consoles, I have ways to play them, but sometimes it's just easier. And especially if we're talking about trying to play Game Boy games, for example, if you're playing it on the original hardware and you don't have a screen light, you don't have a backlight mod installed, it's just really difficult. And especially when I'm trying to introduce my son to video games these days, sometimes being able to just turn on a Raspberry Pi or to just hand him a retro emulation station handheld lets him experience those games that, yeah, I've got in the library and I could stick on, but it's a lot less faff and it's a lot easier for him to enjoy and play those games. Now, the reason I'm talking about emulators is because recently I've been playing with the RG351P, or I think somebody told me it's meant to be the RG351P is the right way to say it. And recently I got the M version as well, the metal one. And I have been playing PlayStation 1 games on this. PlayStation 1 games I've got in my library, like Tomorrow Never Dies, 007, Mission Impossible. And these are games that I keep on thinking about regularly and I've been wanting to play for ages. But honestly, trying to find the time is really difficult. Editing, trying to, you know, create video game development, making sure I play games with my son and not just by myself. It's really difficult to sit down and find the time to play those games that I want to play, like, you know, that that have that nostalgia for me that maybe my son wouldn't enjoy as much, or I just want to experience a little bit and get that nostalgia myself. Because to do that, normally I'd have to get the disc out, I'd have to plug the PlayStation 1 in, I'd have to load it up, I'd have to sit here and dedicate time to myself away from the family, which I don't necessarily have. But yet, with an emulation station, whether it's this, whether it's a Pocket Go, whether it's the Retroid Pi 2 or whatever, or even if it's just on your TV downstairs and you switch it on with a Raspberry Pi, for me in particular, handheld gaming anyway is an absolute godsend, because I can play this when I'm sitting giving my baby a bottle of milk. I can play this when I'm sat with my son and he can watch over my shoulder, and then we can quickly stop it and go and do something else. I can play this when I'm on the toilet, you know what I mean? I can find so many times to just squeeze in those extra few minutes. And My life these days is exactly that. It's finding those minutes and seconds where I can squeeze stuff in, whether it's video editing, whether it's game development, whether it's playing games. I don't have the luxury of sitting down for hours. I have to squeeze time in. And something like this, something like a portable handheld emulator is absolutely perfect for that. So if you're gonna ask me, is emulation wrong? Is it right? Is it legal? I don't know. I don't know. It's probably the negative answers, the ones you don't want to hear. You probably shouldn't do it, especially if you don't own the games. If you're not on the games, you're going down a really dodgy path. If you don't have those games and you can get them on the NES Classic, that's probably the way you should do it. I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's your choice. You make a decision. Like I say, I get these RG351P the Pocket Go consoles. Some of them come loaded, preloaded already with loads of games. That's an easy way to access them. But what I'm here to discuss about, what I'm talking about, is the impact it makes for me and the quality of life difference in being able to play those games in a much more accessible, easier way. And let's not forget save states. Again, I don't have the time to dedicate 18 hours to complete a game because I keep on dying, having to restart and go back to a certain checkpoint. Hit me up with a save state just before a hard boss level. Yeah, I'm cheating. Who cares? You know what I mean? I get to enjoy the game. There's lots of other things to discuss as well. For example, lag. I know if you're going to be playing games like Contra, if you're going for like, speed runs, things like that, yeah, emulation has its issues, and I accept that. But I'm a casual retro gamer. I like to just enjoy my games. I like the stories in games, and this sometimes being able to emulate is an absolutely perfect option for me. So anyway, they're my thoughts on emulation. Probably a lot more I could discuss, but I'm starting to get a dry mouth now because I've not stopped. This episode, like I said, is a tagged episode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit up 3 other YouTubers that I know edit their videos and take the time, and it takes them hours to create those episodes, to create that 10-minute episode that people get to see. I'm going to do it for 2 reasons. One, I'm really curious. It's interesting, it's fun. It's been fun for me to do this, and I'll be interested to see how their episodes turn out and how they deal with just going through in one long shot. And second of all, I'm giving them a bit of a breather. They get a free episode here. They get to make an episode in 10-15 minutes, put whatever kind of graphics they want on it and put it out there. Free episode, guys. I'm making your life a lot easier, making my life easier. Let's see what's going on. So we're gonna go with Gaming Off the Grid. That'll be really interesting because there's 2 of you there. I'd like to see that dynamic. Let's hit up Button Bashers. I don't know if it's just gonna be Jamie or if Dan's gonna be back, but whatever. Let's see what you got. And Retro Gamer Boy. 3 homies there, 3 great channels, well 4 homies, 5 homies if you include everyone. But anyway, great channels, go and check them out. I would love to see what you come up with, guys. Talk about anything you want, an episode you already had planned, an episode you didn't have planned, whatever you want, it's your episode. Just do it one shot, beginning to end, no cuts, no edits, no B-roll, no jump shots, jump cuts. Everything in there, all right? None of that editing stuff. Anyway, I'm going on now, I'm going off on a tangent. Thank you so much for watching. I need to get back downstairs. I think I can hear a baby crying, and I've got 2 other kids that are waiting on me as well. Like I said, I'm gonna keep the content coming. We'll see how it goes. There's gonna be an episode coming up soon because I'm gonna review the RG351M. We did the RG351P, we'll do the M now next. I'm gonna do some PlayStation 5 content as well. I've got some ideas for that. Talking about games I'm really looking forward to coming up in 2021. And also, is the 3DS relevant in 2021? I don't know, you tell me. Well, I'm going to tell you in a few episodes time. We'll see when that comes out. Might be the next episode. Like I say, kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time. A big thank you to my Patreon supporters who help make these episodes possible, including Hilazing Retro Gaming, Jack Mawson and Fat Zangief. If you want to show your support for Chronik Spartan games, then you can head on over to chronicspartan.com and check out our indie games. You can become a Chronik Spartan patron at patreon.com, or you can kick off your shoes and relax your socks with some Chronik Spartan merch from tpublic.com. All links are in the description below. But the simplest and easiest way to show your support is to just hit that subscribe button. Thank you for tuning in.